Alright, I'm back, and this is going to be lesson number 14, logical fallacies. Logical fallacies. So what is that? A logical fallacy is basically exactly like it sounds like. It's a flaw in your logic. So there's a whole huge list of them, and I'm just going to go through the major ones because these are the ones that you need to know. So ad hominem, AD space HOMINEM means attacking the person instead of their position. So basically, this comes up in speech and debate a lot. If you're out there saying, like, my opponent is ugly, they're stupid, they're fat, blah, 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 that's ad hominem. You're attacking the person instead of what they're arguing about. Straw man, which is just one word, attacking a different position other than the one that your opponent holds or expresses. So straw man is, basically, again, this goes back to speech and debate. If one person says they want to raise taxes, if you go not off on a tangent, but you say you just want to steal all our money and give it to another country or something like that, you're kind of making a straw man argument. Like, they're like, that's not what I said. False cause. Just because two things are correlated does not mean that one causes the other. Correlation does not necessarily imply causation. Correlation can be causation, but it does not have to be. So false cause is when you look at, and there's whole huge examples out there of stuff that's correlated to each other that are not causation, where it's clear and obvious to us, where it'll be like birth rates in the state of Michigan and IHOP restaurants that closed, or something bizarre and weird like that. Number of fish in a lake, and number of people who graduated from high school. Weird things that have no relation to each other at all, but you can show, oh, well, they map on a graph, so they're clearly related then, because they appear to be related, they must be. That's false cause. Bandwagon. The bandwagon approach is similar to the popularity appeal, except it's the extreme form of it. It's basically saying, everybody's doing it. Get on the bandwagon. We're all doing it, let's all go do it together. That's the bandwagon. Clearly not everybody is in agreement or doing whatever it is, because there's always people who are going to be different and disagree. Cherry picking. It's two words, cherry picking. Picking only the evidence which supports your conclusion while ignoring any evidence against it. So you're going, and people bring this up a lot in relation to the Bible. They always say you're cherry picking the Bible if you pick out specific verses that say, this says what I wanted to say, but I'm going to ignore everything else that says anything opposite. False dilemma. Arguing that we are forced to choose between two options when other options exist. This is especially when we're choosing between the lesser of two evils. So you have one extreme position and then one not as bad. You're like, okay, you're either going to get your face eaten by panthers or we're going to do this instead. And then somebody stands up and says, wait, isn't there like a third option that's neither of those? That's the false dilemma. No true Scotsman. This is basically when you create, this is the complicated definition, but I'll give you the stereotypical example. So it's when you create conditions in which you can dismiss evidence against your claim rather than retract the original claim. So that's like if you say, no true Scotsman eats oatmeal, and you're like, I know tons of people from Scotland who eat oatmeal. What are you saying? Like, well, they must not be true Scotsmen then. That's what you're saying. That's the no true Scotsman fallacy. A non sequitur is when you make a totally unrelated point. So this is similar to some of the other things, such as straw man, but it's more extreme than that, because it's basically saying you're throwing out something that has nothing to do with anything. Your opponent says one thing, and you say, oh, well, what about 9/11? And you're like, we're not discussing 9/11 or terrorism or anything to do with it. What are you throwing that out for? You're just saying, like, you hate America. You don't want to talk about this right now, so that might mean it's blah blah blah. Just kind of like going off on a rant or a tangent that has nothing to do with anything. That's a non sequitur. The slippery slope, arguing that a single action will lead to a series of negative consequences. It's basically saying like a snowball rolling down a mountain turns into like a giant snowball. It gets bigger as it goes down through the path of snow. That's what the slippery slope is. It's saying, well, this one thing will lead to all these huge, terrible things in the future. Whataboutism is when you avoid addressing the issue by deflecting to a different issue. So again, very similar to non sequitur and strawman, except with whataboutism, it's almost always, well, what about is where that phrase comes from for the logical fallacy. It's like they say, I support blah blah, and you're like, well, what about your record on such and such and such that doesn't have anything to do with whatever you were just discussing? And they go back to, well, that doesn't have to do with what we were just talking about. You're just bringing up something else. Even if it's true, you're doing a whataboutism. So those are the main logical fallacies. I think that about covers it for that topic. Thank you.